FSSAI promise, Irked affiliates double trouble for center as U.S. pushes for GM crops as India and the United States navigate complex negotiations over a bilateral trade agreement concerning agricultural products. A particularly sensitive issue has emerged: agriculture. The U.S. aims to introduce its apples, corn, and soybeans into the Indian market. However, New Delhi is deeply concerned about the US's insistence that India permit the import of genetically modified GM products, which are widely controversial in India. To date, Bt cotton is the only GM crop approved for commercial cultivation in India since 2002. New Delhi's concerns are well-founded, with both legal and political dimensions. In 2017, the Food Safety and Standards Authority of India FSSAI assured the Supreme Court that no GMOs were allowed in the country. However, the following year, this stance was somewhat adjusted. In 2007, the Union Health Ministry had issued a notification directing the Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee (GEAC) to continue regulating GM food, as the FSSAI had not yet formulated the necessary regulations or had the required domain expertise. Consequently, the GEAC transferred 9 applications for the import of herbicide-tolerant and insect-resistant soybean and rapeseed oils from Monsanto Holdings, Dow AgroSciences, and Pioneer Hybrid Seeds to the FSSAI. In August 2017, the Supreme Court instructed the FSSAI to create regulations and guidelines for GM food articles and to seek Parliament's approval for them. Yet, by 2018, the FSSAI was still in the process of doing so. According to its own admission, GEAC Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee is the controlling body for certification of GMOs in India, under Ministry of Environment, Forest, and Climate Change. Taking cognizance of this issue, FSSAI is now in process of prescribing guidelines for approval of such products. FSSAI March 20, 2018. The current trade negotiations have hit a new hurdle, with the U.S. steadfast on pushing GM maize and GM soybeans, neither of which are legally permitted in India. Government sources suggest that any alteration in this stance could trigger judicial intervention and provoke the ire of the extensive farmers' lobby in India, who view GM crops as detrimental. Consequently, the government is cognizant of the significant political costs involved in altering the status quo for a trade deal. As discussions continue between New Delhi and Washington, D.C., this impasse might delay the agreement beyond the anticipated July 8 deadline, after which new tariffs of 26% are set to be implemented in the absence of a trade deal. And even the faintest hint of compromising on the issue of GM crops will first face opposition from within, particularly from affiliates of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh (RSS). The Swadeshi Jagran Manch (SJM), the RSS's economic wing, has been a vociferous critic of GM crops and foods in India for an extended period. Ashwani Mahajan, the co-convener of SJM, elaborates, "There are 3 reasons we oppose GM crops. Firstly, the incidence of cancer in the US is 350 per 100,000 people, compared to 100 per 100,000 in India, largely due to prevalent GM crops in the US. Do we want that? Secondly, our food exports, particularly to European nations that have banned GM foods, stand at 50 billion. If we permit GM crops, they will inevitably infiltrate our food system, jeopardizing our exports. Lastly, there are numerous voices within the government against GM crops. Recently, a NITI working paper recommended that the center import genetically modified agricultural products like maize and soybean. Coincidentally, the US is also advocating for the inclusion of these GM products in India. In response, another Sangh affiliate, the Bharatiya Kisan Sangh (BKS), launched a vehement critique against the NITI, accusing it of capitulating to US demands. Mahajan adds that the Modi government seems to be standing firm on this issue. According to my information, the center isn't going that way, for which I am thankful, he states. Nanan swipe left for next video. Genetically modified GM crops are plants whose genetic material has been altered using biotechnology to introduce desirable traits. This modification is done by inserting genes from other organisms to improve resistance to pests, diseases, or environmental conditions, or to enhance nutritional value and shelf life. Unlike traditional crossbreeding, GM technology allows precise changes at the DNA level. While GM crops can boost yields and reduce pesticide use, they also raise concerns about environmental impact, food safety, and corporate control of seeds, sparking global debates over their adoption and regulation. Latest blogs.